Hello and welcome. It is All for United. We are back again after a night off for Barry. He's back on the television screens again. It's ridiculous. I don't know. Is there a person who's on All for United more than me? I'm not convinced there is, for good or for bad. But here we are. Speaking of people that should be on All for United, Dan will be here. He promises me that. Apparently he's having trouble with his camera. Don't worry, he will be in discipline after the show, and we shall take him through the formal disciplinary process for being late. But regardless, we are here, and as you can see, we've got another returnee, somebody we've managed to get back on for the first time this season. Always a pleasure to have him on, and it is, of course, Tony. How are you doing, sir? Everything okay?
Yeah, very good. How about yourself? All good?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think we can all be quite content with that as a whole, but we are certainly going to get into it. So big hello to everyone who's here, JJ and NT, who were in before the show actually started, and of course to Sir Benny on his way back from Selhurst Park. And it'd be interesting to know, Benny, what the sort of atmosphere is like on that coach at the moment, because I should imagine it's a bit like the rest of us. It's a ridiculous mixture of being absolutely delighted with the performance, but frustrated that it's not led to a win. And Mayor Monkey there, annoyed, but happy the girls won, though, and absolutely the girls did give us a winning start to the WSL season as well. So I suppose really the big question to open up with was the lineup. The lineup was exactly the same as last week with just the one exception. He started with Garnacho, but he dropped Rashford. Now, it's hard to argue. I thought Garnacho played well, but didn't quite understand why Rashford was dropped to the bench for this one. I mean, was there an argument maybe that Rashford starts on the left, Garnacho could have started on the right, and maybe Ahmad came on? I know there's lots of talk about the Europa League coming up in the middle of the week, but I don't know. What was your thoughts when you saw the lineup? Because I felt like Rashford just getting his confidence back, dropping him maybe wasn't the smartest move. But what did you think?
I get it, because Garnacho has really come off the bench quite a few times and showcased what we can all see is his brilliance in quite a few games this season. But it seemed to me as the game went on how detrimental it was not starting Rashford. You've got a player who's back on confidence, back on form, I suppose, the last two games. And, but then it's a good problem. It's a good problem to have for Ten Hag, to have wingers that are like performing well, doing really well when they're playing. And it's kind of getting the right balance of things. And obviously you've got to bear in mind, we've got the Europa League coming up on Wednesday. Got quite a few games coming up, so it was kind of, I get the thought process, but maybe the execution, what Ten Hag was thinking, didn't go the best of ways today.
Yeah, I guess so, but there was just, I don't know what it is for me. I again, Benny's got it here.
Yeah,
he's answered the question. The coach is a mixture of frustration not being able to score, but a top first half performance. Second half levels dropped, as they sometimes do. Tempo wasn't the same after the subs in the second half. And I suppose I think we all feel that way. I really do. But I don't know what it is, Tony. I'm sitting here genuinely worried about why we've done that. Like, Ahmad hasn't scored for a bit. So I could have lived with Garnacho on the right, Rashi on the left. Now, I take it back to the times of Sir Alex. We've gone early. I hope NT's here. We're going early. But when you take it back to the time of Sir Alex, you get to these sort of games where you're playing against teams. And to be fair, Palace have played 4 games, drawn 2, lost 2. They've not had a great start to the season. They've lost Elise. They're not in the best of situations. And it's a game where you would have expected Man United, having just come off the back of 2 games where they've scored 10 goals. Yes, one of them was Barnsley, but no goals conceded. There's so many positives to take from it. But you look at that Alex Ferguson way, he would do this. He would sometimes drop a player and you'd be thinking, oh, why has he done that? And we would get a silly result. And you think, so why didn't you just start with a player? I think the difference between now and then was that we were really successful then. So even if we did have a dodgy result against Crystal Palace, you knew we were going to be up there fighting for the title. You knew we were going to be up there fighting for the trophies. It was just a freak result. We've had too many freak results, I suppose, as Man United currently. So I kind of feel like we're not in that position where we can afford to do that too much. We've got to get the win first, and then we could have sat there and made the decision to make some changes. I just think Rashi should have started. I think you've got Rashi with 2 goals, Garnacho with 2 goals, Ericsson with 2 goals. I don't see the rationale. And I think what was disgusting was watching some of the people on Sky Sports giving it there must be a reason. He's probably had an argument, something desperate to try and get something out of nothing. But I don't know. I just think we should have just tried to go for it. If Rashford plays, does he get those goals?
He does. He gets the Garnacho one. I would put my house on him scoring that. And that's not a knock on Garnacho. It was an unlucky miss. But what I'm saying is I'd have put my house on Rashford tucking that away. And I think for me, I love Ahmad. So I'm not going to knock Ahmad. And I think he's a player that will come very good for us. He's not a natural out-and-out goal scorer yet. Maybe he never will be. But it's all easy to look at it from hindsight, and I'm trying to think of trying to get in the psyche of Ten Hag a little bit, thinking, I wonder what his thought process was. Was maybe he wanted someone, because he likes having that player to come off the bench and have that impact, like Garnacho did last week, like a few of the players have over the season. So it was kind of a weird thought process, but I get where he was trying to come with. Like Rashford comes on 60th minute, runs ragged, but the problem was Xerxes was the one building everything up in the final third. He was the hold-up man, and you took him off and you replaced him with Rashford. Rashford doesn't do that role, so you're there like it's like putting square pegs in round holes. You know what I mean? It didn't really work for the situation we were in. But another day without Dean Henderson, we'd be talking about a 2-0 win right now, and we'd be laughing. So everything's easy in hindsight, but I do agree with you, Baz. Like, it was a very confusing decision in retrospect.
It is one of those awkward ones, isn't it? It really is one of those awkward ones, because as a fan, there are so many positives to take from this game. But you sat there with just that little inkling, a little bat where you're just like, we should have scored. And again, I would argue one of the massive ones to take out of that is that's 3 clean sheets on the trot now.
Yeah.
Using different defenders, using different goalkeepers. Our defence has been so much tighter this season already than last season. We're not leaking the chances that we were leaking last time. What's your thoughts in that respect of how well we're doing defensively? Because I tweeted earlier, there was a cutback just before half time. We dominated for 40 odd minutes. I saw the cutback.
It's going in. It's going in, yeah.
And my head just went, no. And I mean, thank God it was straight at Anana. But we'd have conceded that last year.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It was different, doesn't it?
It's the levels. You've got players in there like Mazraoui, De Ligt, who I think both of them together have been brilliant. Like, I can't really knock them that much. I know the Liverpool game, take that game away, but besides that, I think those two have been really solid for us, and I think they've been really welcome additions to the team. They bring a sense of, like, you can tell for them, this is like when a game for them is like they take it to another level in terms of their aggression. But it's not aggression in a bad way. It's aggression in the way they come into the tackle, the way they want to push for the ball, they want to press forward. And I feel like the back four, and even Onana looks a lot more confident this season with the back line that he's got in front of him. I know there's been a few changes, but it seems like the defence is finally on the right page. And I think that's one thing. The goals will come, I think. I think we'll talk about this, in a couple of months when Højlund's back on form. Xerxes will get a couple of goals. And I think, that we'll come back and we'll look at this as a stepping stone to the bigger things to come. I know it's easy right now to say, like, it's 2 points lost, but I'm trying to look at it from a glass half full sort of perspective, like in the sense of those chances another day go in. So it's kind of there, like, remedying the issues that we had in the second half, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I don't think I can argue with anything there. And I do believe that our latecomer is here. He hasn't got his usual background, so I'm not sure if he's ready or not. He does have his headphones on, so I'm going to bring him in, and if he's surprised, it'll just be tough luck on it. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for popping in. Nice of you to
Absolutely.
join us.
So many issues with my camera at the minute. It's just not working. That's why the fancy background's gone. Something wrong with it.
What time did you call this?
Late. Just can't get the staff, mate. You really can't.
You absolutely can't. It's disgraceful behaviour. I would ask how you were, but I'm not sure I care at this precise second in time. I'm joking. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good, yeah, I'm good. Not as downbeat on that result as many people seem to be on the internet, but yeah, not bad to be honest. I don't think the performance was too bad. Sounds weird to say.
I think that's the internet for you, really, isn't it? You're always going to find that. Connor's suggesting there's a fine coming in the post there, so that'll be entertaining. I didn't realise
I can afford that right now.
I'm not convinced that Connor is in any position to be talking about late. It's not because he turns up late, but because every WFC show is 5 minutes late from starting, without a shadow of a doubt. It used to just be because we were waiting for people, but now we just sort of sat there going, yeah, we'll start in a sec. Building up the tension, I would imagine. Like Vince McMahon. I was going to ask you the same thing, Dan, as I've just asked Tony, which was about the starting lineup. I was gobsmacked that Rashford was dropped for Garnacho. I feel like if somebody in that front three was going to be dropped, there's an argument for Xerxes, there's an argument for Ahmad, potentially over the course of the last couple of games. But we're actually getting onto the score sheet, getting into the groove. Was you a bit surprised to see that he was the one who missed out today?
A little bit, but it's sort of what we've come to expect. I still maintain that it should be Ahmad and Garnacho on that right-hand side swapping and Rashford and then Xerxes once Højlund's fit. So I was a little bit surprised. You were talking about purple patches and footballers having purple patches. Rashford's one of those. When he starts scoring, he normally goes on a run of 8 or 9 with goals. So I was quite surprised to see him drop in the sense of it looks like he's getting into the swing of things. But then if you look at the game and the start to the game, you can't really disagree with the decision because we made enough chances to go ahead and we was playing well enough in the first half an hour in particular that we was dominating. So you can't say he was wrong in what he did. But then when you look at the last half an hour, Garnacho has been coming and destroying those last half an hours for us. And now we didn't have that option off the bench. So maybe Garnacho will be kicking himself a little bit because he might find himself on the bench next game now because he's been such a super sub, as it were.
Sorry, it's interesting because he has said that that the reason he's dropped him is just to rotate the strikers. But again, I was saying to Tone, Fergie did that and he did it successfully, but we were successful at the time. And I always remember sitting there, even with Ferguson, and saying, win the match first. Just win the match first. Stop hoping that, the second string are going to come in and do the business. Win it first, then rest your players. Get them to do the job first. Would you agree with that? Especially now, we're not, Fergie had a lot of, a lot he could fall back on. We don't really have that at the moment.
I think the problem you've got is you don't really know what the front three first 11 is yet. The positions are all up for grabs still because you've got Ahmad still pretty young. I know he's started to see. To me, he's been the best winger this season. He started really well. Garnacho's still a kid. You've got Rashford's not in form, not out of form. Højlund's injured. Still don't see Xerxes, even though, in my opinion, he's sort of the glue today. Like everything went through him. But I still think that he could maybe drop a bit deeper and have someone in front. So it's just a weird one at the minute. Like, I think we've missed the most big chances in the league. We've got an XG of about 10.2 and we've only scored 5 goals. We've got a better XG than like Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and we've scored less goals than them. So we just don't know what the front three is yet to say that this is the front three, this is what's going forward. I understand the rotation, but ultimately, I don't think we're having this conversation if Garnacho scores in the first half with the chances that he's had. You sort of like, easy. Great decision. We've just been unfortunate, to be honest.
Okay, well, just me then on that one. Just me. But there we go. It's all right. It's allowed. I know I'm right. I don't need to know more validation, if I'm honest with you. Oh, what a day. So I think if we talk about that first half, what is it, first of all, Tone, about this fixture? We've not scored in the last 3 games that we've played against Crystal Palace. When we lost the first time, I think it was 1-0, Sam Johnston was in goal. We lost 4-0 at the end of last season. Henderson was in goal. He's in goal again today. What is it about those goalkeepers that, they weren't good enough to stay at Manchester United, but then when they come up against us, all of a sudden, we should have sold them for 700 million, and they actually fill the goal? Because the first one from Garnacho, he goes for the far post. You do kind of feel there's an argument that he could have gone near post and low, and maybe that got past him. But genuinely, I'm not even sure Rashford would have scored that chance. I'm not even sure Thierry Henry in his prime would have scored that chance. Just Henderson was just in the right place at the right time. His positioning for all of those shots was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just think about it like this: players want to prove themselves, prove a point. Like Henderson probably feels aggrieved that he's not United's number 1 right now, and I think a lot of goalkeepers who we play against, who use Tom Heaton, for example, Sam Johnston, they all seem to have a really good game against us. And I think that's because of the fact they know the players, they know what they're trying to do. Like Dean Henderson would have watched a few of our players in training and gone, I know what he's going to do here. You know what I mean? That's kind of like, it's kind of anticipation. I think Dean Henderson, number 1, he could have anticipated. Number 2, I think he had a point to prove. You could see how much it meant to him keeping a clean sheet today against us. Like that meant everything to him. And fair play to him, because he's a top goalkeeper, and part of me still thought he didn't get a fair shake at United, so I've got to give him that. And another day, like I said, shot selections, go bottom corner instead of going top, goes in, maybe near post. It's all semantics at this point. I think we've just got to applaud the goalkeeper and just say he had a very good game. And yeah. I'm trying to say that positively. I'm good.
You did a good job with it. Doing a pretty good job with it. Dan, for you, again, it's like, you said in our group chat, you knew he was going to have a worldie. He did. And he was, I think, the difference between another 3 points for Manchester United and us being just ridiculously positive this evening, and us really sort of being held back. I'd put us a little bit at the moment as, you've ever seen them, but you get these bouncy castle games where you can tie yourself onto a bungee. You have to try and run as far as you possibly can to touch a point before it yanks you back. That's kind of how I feel like being a Man United fan at the moment. Like, you get to a certain point and then you just get pulled back a little bit before you get the chance to go again. Unbelievable, really, wasn't it? And I'm just not convinced there was anything we could have done different up top.
Yeah, the frustrating thing for me, I think he made 7 saves in the game. I would say 4 of them were ridiculously good. I think the only frustration for me is when we should have scored and we had him beat, we missed the target. Like De Ligt should have scored from the header. There was another chance back post that we probably should have scored. When he was beaten, we was just missing the chances. But again, I can't be overly negative about what I saw for sort of 70 minutes. We was good. We was good value. If we would have gone in 2-0 up, it would have been good value. Yeah, we slipped back into the same sort of stuff that you see. I'm trying not to be too negative today, to be honest, because it really was a good performance. And without Henderson playing the way he did, we would have won the game. I mean, Crystal Palace will say exactly the same as what we're saying here, by the way. They will say without the saves that Onana have made today, they could have won the game. So it was a little bit more open than maybe you think on first viewing. But Henderson, for me, I agree with Tone. He could quite easily have been our number 1. There was a period where he stepped in and he played really well under Solskjaer. He's just got unlucky with injury and stuff like that. So he's got a point to prove. It's annoying that he's proved it today. We'll probably go and drop a couple of clangers in the next game, knowing our luck. It's just the way it is, isn't it? Unfortunately, but you got to give him his credit. He was quality today. That save from the one where Garnacho didn't get his foot to it. How he's managed to tip that around the post is absolutely mental. And then you knew as well, because he's celebrating before he's even up, that he's made the save, and he was sort of injured doing it. But how he's got a flick to that, because he must have been expecting the contact. It didn't come, and then he still got a flick to it.
Yeah,
I thought he was brilliant. Barry's muted again.
Barry muted, mate.
Again.
Celebrate these moments.
I'm just pleased you're here to celebrate these moments, Tam. That was a brief moment where I thought it was just going to be a two-person show. And I'd have to announce the departure of Dan from AFU.
Or for Dortmund.
You know, get a result there. Good God. A really, really long week, boys. It really has. Okay, so we've spoken about Garnacho chances. We've spoken about just in general, actually, the play. The thing that I noticed most about halftime was just how positive everybody seemed to be. It was outstanding. And I think there's so many different points to our game that we can look at and really feel proud and happy about. Like playing out from the back. I'm not sat here at the moment at any point worried about playing out from the back. There's going to be a time where we try and play out from the back and it's going to ruin it for us and someone's going to score, because that happens. But by and large, our playing out from the back has been pretty good. We're playing through the thirds quite well. We're getting the ball into the final third really well. We're playing some really lovely stuff. It was unfortunate that we didn't manage to get the goal this time. But the second half did drop a little bit. I don't think it was poor in the second half necessarily, but we just didn't quite seem to have. I think the substitutions just weren't as effective, and I don't think it helped with Bruno staying on the pitch, if I'm brutally honest. Now, the world will know I'm a huge advocate of Bruno Fernandes and all that he brings to the club, but I felt from the start of the second half, actually, he looked like he was doing that bit that Bruno does, which is where he tries to force it, tries to force the result, tries to force the issue. And as a result, that usually means he's going for the Hollywood pass rather than the simple ones that could potentially get us into a good position. Where was your thoughts, Tone, on how Bruno Fernandes did? JJ has said, he believes Bruno was our issue this game. Once Xerxes was off, the creative flair disappeared, and that should be a concern for Bruno because his forward was better than he was. I don't know how much I agree necessarily with that as a whole statement, but certainly it wasn't his finest game. He hasn't hit the heights just yet, even though he has had more assists than anybody else in our team so far.
Yeah. Bruno for me is a great player. Like he's probably on his day our best player. But there's these games where he has, like you said, where he tries to do the magnificent. When it's not on, it's not necessary. It's detrimental to the way we were playing today at times. And I felt like even though there was times where he could play the simple 10-yard, keep the play going, keep the momentum going, keep pushing Palace, he would try that 30-yard diagonal pass. He would try. It just seemed... it seemed forced, like you said, and I think sometimes Ten Hag needs to realise, like, as much as Bruno's a brilliant player, there's times where it's not working, and maybe today I would have took Bruno off instead of Xerxes. That would have been the move for me, and that's not to say this is the problem with United and just Sky Sports in general and punditry and things like this. If a good player gets taken off, it's because there's an agenda against them, or that they're finished, or this, that, and the other. Some brilliant players can have bad games. You know what I mean? That's what we've got to remember here. It's just the fact, like, Bruno can have a bad game and be subbed off. Next game he starts, he'll have this worldie and score two. That's football, you know what I mean? But no player should be above being subbed. And I think a lot of, I guess, I always see a lot of people saying that Bruno should be, should have come off today. But, you move on from it. And I don't think it was his fault we didn't win the game. Like, I'm not putting it all on him, but I'm just saying, and let's see what NT said. Yeah, because of the most obvious, because he's the one who could, if you look at how much he has the ball in the middle of the park, Bruno, he has the ball more than anyone in the middle of the park. He's on the ball so much. And I think sometimes it's highlighted, and he's the captain, so it's going to be highlighted even more, I feel. But yeah. I don't know what your thoughts are, Dan, mate.
Don't wait for me, Dan. You just been asked a question. He said, don't know what your thoughts are. You're like, yeah, nothing.
I'm in a rock and a hard place with this one because I thought he played well. It just wasn't his day at the end. So it was like the same with Garnacho and Ahmad, to be honest. We was good up until the 18-yard box, and then he was struggling with that final ball that he's normally so good at. But in terms of progressing play and being on the ball and making us tick, he was doing all those things. I think his long passes weren't great today. I think he gave the ball away about 34 times. So he wasn't his usual self. I mean, he still normally gives it away 17, but they're normally better. I actually agree with Beanie there, to be honest. I think Eriksen should have stayed on today because it just wasn't Fernandes' day, and Fernandes gone off. But I don't know whether this is in the back of the mind because it's Manchester United or not, but can you imagine the media if Fernandes actually got subbed as captain? There would be a piece written every day for the next week until we next kick a ball. So it must be rocking a hard place for Ten Hag when he's making his substitutions. That can I take my captain off at Man United, or is it going to cause that much uproar? I mean, look, like you say, I caught as I was watching along at the beginning. You said about Rashford swapping for Garnacho. Look at what they was trying to imply at the start. That there was some sort of issue with Rashford this week, and that's why he's been dropped. Not just because Garnacho's been in incredible form this season that he's pushed for a start. There's got to be a problem. So I can only imagine what we would be saying if Fernandes did get subbed. But he just had one of them days today, to be honest. Just couldn't get that final ball in. I've seen a lot of people say the subs were wrong. I don't necessarily think it was wrong. It just didn't work out. I don't know what else he could have done, like in terms of the changes that he did. Maybe you could maybe done a few things a little bit different, but they would be what you would want if you was trying to win the game. We just seem to come off the gas a bit in the last half an hour as well. But I've got to give Palace credit as well because their three centre-backs were excellent today, and the subs he made at half-time really made a difference. Someone put earlier they were surprised with the way Palace played. In the first half, I was shocked. They were so far off it and just let us play. I was really surprised it wasn't such a high press. So you got to give them credit for the way they changed it as well. Yeah, tough game for Fernandes, to be honest. We've not seen the best of him this season, but I still think he's created loads for us.
Well, we haven't seen the best of him, no. But as I said at the very start of the question, he has had more assists than anybody else for the goals that we've scored so far. And that's the thing. I think Bruno set a bar that's so high that now when he doesn't reach it, people think he's playing poorly when actually he's just playing average, playing as, at a level that he wasn't at before. And people are thinking that that's bad, whereas actually it's probably as good as a lot of other people on their day, I suppose. An interesting little bit of chat has been starting up in the conversation, or I've put that the wrong way around entirely. An interesting little conversation has been started up in the chat through numerous people. So I'm going to kick off with this one first of all. I thought the same thing, Beanie. I've got to be honest, when he came on, I did wonder. But it turns out he's just got a peach-coloured top. So there you go. So that's that one. I was intrigued about this one that came up. Hand it to the back teeth, Ten Hag. Mainu should never be relied on as a 6. I'm going to throw that one out there because I think, again, Mainu, absolutely superb. I mean, I can't see why there's anger at the midfield, if I'm honest with you. I don't feel like Mainu is doing anything wrong. We had the same sort of arguments happening all the time in the women's team. Katie Zellerman's not a 6. I don't get it, if I'm honest with you. I think, 3 games without conceding a goal, I don't think we should really be worrying about who our defensive midfielder is. Is this just another way of saying that maybe Ugarte should have played, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think you've got to bear in mind, Ten Hag has got the long-term plan in his mind. Ugarte will end up starting for United. That's a given. You don't buy a player of Ugarte's value and promise to not play him. And I think Mainu is doing a role that he probably doesn't want to do at the moment. But like you said, he's doing a good job. Like the midfield was the least of my worries today. The middle of the park, we looked really comfortable. at times, and it's lack of athleticism is evident in the Premier. I've heard some silly comments this week, but that's got to be up there with the silliest. What? He's probably one of our most athletic players. Lack of it. Oh, come on. There's about 10 other players in the United team I'd say are not as athletic as Mainu is. He controls the what? that just took me off kilter reading that comment. I was like, lack of athleticism. Oh man,
I was about to bring this one up for Dan, but yeah.
Oh, I don't know. You must be seeing something. Oh, I'm not, mate. I can't agree with that at all. I think Mainu played some really nice little tidy passes. He cleaned up quite a lot in the first half when we needed him to clean up. Let's be honest, first half, I don't think I remember Palace doing anything besides the Eze chance in our half. I don't remember anything. So,
I mean, exactly.
It's hard to blame anything today. He is only 19 years old. You got to bear in mind, we're looking at it. We're talking about a kid here, if we're being honest. Like, I feel like it's hard. It'd be unfair to us to say he lacks speed and strength, because at the moment he's a kid, so he's only going to improve on that. It's not like he's got at the twilight of his career. We're talking about someone who's only going to get better, and the fact is, he's starting every game for United now. It says a lot about his character and about who he is as a player, that he's starting at one of the biggest teams in the world at 19 years old and consistently looks like one of our brighter players. I think, maybe there are question marks that he's being overplayed at the moment, but I wouldn't say it's because of those qualities. Not for me anyway, but I could be just looking through my United tinted glasses a little bit, I suppose.
Well, I mean, we call the United team, but he's played for England as well. He's represented his country. Yeah. And I'm not convinced that every single midfielder has to have, or indeed every single player has to have the exact same attributes. No. You don't have to have speedy midfielders. Paul Scholes was hardly Usain Bolt, but he was still one of the best midfielders we had. Yeah. And for me, there was just an unbelievably ridiculous moment there for Mainu where the ball was passed to him in midfield and it was behind him. So he just casually, as if he was doing a Cruyff turn, just put his right foot behind him and just backheeled it to the player. And the confidence that he's got, the strength. Ronaldo, was he the strongest when he came to United? No, he wasn't. Again, young, still needs to build up that strength, and he will do. I don't know, Dan. Like, this is it's quite a thing, isn't it? NT's tried to help out. I'd say that Mainu isn't much of a runner like a Fred or a Zagati will be, but he more than makes up for it with his composure on the ball and his decision making. And that's exactly it, isn't it? You've got different players with different strengths and different weaknesses. So therefore, it's getting the right blend of those people. And the problem that we had was that our players were not complementing each other. But at the moment, they sort of kind of do. I mean, I'd agree. Eriksen's not going to be fast. Fernandes isn't exactly the speediest either. But you want the speed up top, really. The midfielders don't necessarily need to be fast. They just need to be good on the ball, surely.
The only way I can really sort of explain it from the way I think Box may mean is in the first half when he was against Wharton, he did really well because it's against a young lad, etc. I think once Lerma came on a bit more streetwise, he was struggling a little bit more in terms of like possession, strength, etc. But he reminds me of Michael Carrick in pretty much every way. So Carrick weren't the strongest, he weren't the quickest, but he was so good on the ball, could pick the right pass. I wouldn't personally play Mainu in the 6 in this team, but Mainu could have played in the 6 in Fergie's team quite easily because he's got the same sort of attributes. We just haven't got that sort of team to be able for him to do it in a 6 at the minute. I think Mainu's been okay this season. His standards that he set last year were so high, he was never going to be as good this season as last season because he was phenomenal. He was first name on the team sheet, like Beanie said earlier. I do think now we've got a little bit of rotation ability that he does need to be rotated. We can ease him back in. We can give him some rest because I think I do think he's a bit more explosive than we've seen, like we've seen against Wolves. He maybe just there's a little bit of tiredness in the legs because it's been a long season for a kid to play football like he's played football. So he definitely needs rotating in the coming weeks, and he needs protecting a little bit, to be honest. We don't have to rely on him anymore this season because we've got the players to cover that position. So that's what needs doing. I thought he was good enough today, to be honest. He was really, like I say, the first half in particular, I was not worried at all. Like, we was in so much control and at ease. Everybody was at ease in what they was doing. We was creating chances. Everything was fine. It was just them subs at half time. I don't know whether you tip your hat to Crystal Palace and the sub is made, or Ten Hag should have made some changes a little bit earlier. But no problem for Mano for me today. I thought he's pretty good.
No, I mean, I'd agree. I mean, Dav makes a fair point, which is that Fergie would never place goals in the six, but I wasn't comparing them in terms of where you would play them necessarily. I'm comparing them in terms of the fact that they've got different attributes. And my argument would be that if we were doing this last season, I'd probably agree with you, because we said that about Fletcher. We said that about McTominay. Why have I put Fletcher in the real way back? Obviously, we were talking about... I've completely lost my train of thought here because Tony yawned, and I was like, "Oh, bless him, we're keeping him up, and he's got to watch the boxing. How's he going to do that?"
Yeah, mate.
All the kit, bless him. But no, we said this about McTominay. We said it about Fred, how easy it was to get through our midfield, and the difference I feel this season is that now that we are playing a higher press, we're trying to win the ball higher up the pitch. We're not seeing those balls coming through the midfield quite as much because of the fact that we're closing down that space more. So actually, Manu has more of a possibility, I think, of being able to pick up the ball in the midfield and not having to be that one that's roaming across the front, trying to stop 2 or 3 people coming at him. Now it's more a case of just trying to have a one-on-one. And that, I think, is a much easier position for any player, not just necessarily a Kobbie Mainoo to have to do. So, again, it's all opinions. But yeah, I'm just not convinced. I totally agree with that one. Franz has put in here, why is there no alternatives for Bruno? Is it that hard to promote and groom from the academy like Kobbie was groomed?
I think Mount's an alternative. Mount's kind of the alternative to Bruno. He's just been injured for a couple of weeks.
Ericsson could play there. Zirkzee could play there.
Yeah.
I think there's options, but the thing is, you're talking about the captain. So, there we go. And the other midfielder I want to talk about was Keane. He wasn't exactly the fastest one, was he? But my God, you wouldn't have replaced him from being in the 6. So who knows? Maybe we get a bit of strength from Manu. We'll see how we go. Daz has joined us in the chat. I hadn't put it in there straight away because we were in a different chat, but I found this one interesting. He's not usually controversial when he comes on and talks to us, but I think he's, this is the problem of having it on the day. He's a little bit upset at the minute. He's put momentum ruined by squad selection, missed opportunity. I can recover from bad results, but not bad management. He's got to go. I'm not going to start getting into Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out, because I don't quite think that's necessary. But there are a couple of things to think about there. Now, Tony, he talks about in a following post, he said it wasn't hard. It should have been Garnacho, Rashford, Ahmad as the front 3. He only made one change from last week. So is it really that much of it? I mean, we've sort of spoken about the team, but I mean, that feels a little bit, I'm sorry, Dan, but it feels a little bit harsh.
I don't want to knock the guy's opinion because we're all entitled to it, but for me, I don't really agree with that. I think Ten Hag picked the right team today. I don't think anyone looked at the team today. Very reactionary, but look at the team today, and I don't think anyone was there was appalled by it. There wasn't things with people scratching their heads as such. Maybe the Rashford one you can argue, but that's. We can all look at games in hindsight and go, Rashford should have started this, that, and the other. We could have brought the changes quicker. But Ten Hag stuck with the team that's on form, and he played to his guns. And I mean, you got Ten Hag I think Ten Hag has a couple of games in mind though. I think he's got 20 on Wednesday because you know what he's like. He will play the strongest team he can for each possible game, and I guarantee, I think it was the right. And if he's got, exactly. And the thing is, we're not sitting here today moaning that much. We're actually quite positive. I think we've all said in different ways and different different ways of saying it, but we've all said, like, look, United played well today. Like, we take away. It says a lot when a goalkeeper is the man of the match, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, when a goalkeeper's man of the match, they've done something quite like it's not us, it's them that's done something brilliant today. I think we've got to look at it like that, I suppose. But like I said, trying to keep positive.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, Franz again saying risky to rely so much on Bruno. Man tried outside foot shot twice for a game at 0-0 twice. That's pure petulance. I don't know. He nearly scored with one of them. But he does agree with what NT was saying. Box mentioning, thinking seeing Chelsea and Villa win today, us drawing puts further emphasis on us getting results over Spurs and Villa. As we're on that, Dan, I'm going to ask you the same thing as I mentioned to Tone. But I have been keeping a log, and it's not a very big log at this moment in time. It's a little log, but the log will grow bigger as we go through it. Where people are going to look at this season against last season, they're going to want to compare, and what people tend to do is they compare it by saying, "Oh, after 5 games this time last year, we were on these amount of points," and what they forget is that sometimes you could have played Southampton, Crystal Palace, Everton, Brighton. And in the first 5 games, you could have played City, Arsenal, Liverpool. It's not, you're comparing apples and oranges. So I'm keeping a comparison between last season and this in terms of the points that we've won this season against the points that we've won last season. Obviously, the Southampton one's a bit tricky because we didn't play them last season, but we did win every away game last year against the promoted teams. Do you know, when you take into account Fulham, Brighton, Liverpool, Southampton / a promoted team and Crystal Palace, how many points we had against those teams in these opposite fixtures last year?
No points.
So there's 15 points possible. How many do you think we had?
7.
Exactly that. And how many do you think we've got? Well, I don't know, how many do you think we've got now? You'd know if you was watching the game. Yes, they put the league up, but it's 7.
5.
And there's the issue. We're on exactly the same amount of points now as we were then, because we managed to beat Fulham after not beating them last year, but we beat Brighton last year and lost this year. Obviously, we drew with Liverpool last year and we lost this year. We lost at Palace last year. We drew this year. And then obviously the 3 points against Southampton, which was the same. So it's tricky, isn't it? It's one of those where actually when you start looking at that, as positive as we are all being, currently our results are not reflecting what we're seeing. It really is, Dan, just a style of play, the way that we're playing and the general feeling that we're getting around it, isn't it?
Yeah. So for going back to what was said before about the starting 11, I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly pleased with the starting 11. The starting 11 last week was bossed for 30 minutes against Southampton to a point where I was concerned because we really did look bad for the first half an hour against Southampton. The midfield was dominated. So I was quite surprised with having Ugarte available and Casemiro available that he may have brought one of them back in instead. But ultimately, within 10 minutes, I'd shut up because they started so well and we played well. You can't argue with the selection when the football... I'm quite surprised that Daz has said what he said, to be honest, because he's normally he is controversial, but he's normally down to earth in his opinions and what he's saying. If you would have said to me after the Southampton game, that is not the result that we saw. It wasn't a great performance by us at all, but we've got a win. You can question Ten Hag for his team selection, etc. I would have gone, yeah. Like, even though we won and we won comfortably, it wasn't a comfortable game at all. Watched the Liverpool game today, and that wasn't comfortable for Liverpool, but it looks comfortable in the scoreline. Today, it's the complete opposite. You look at the scoreline and you think, oh, this must have been a close game. Ultimately, we should have won that game quite comfortably. We've just wasted chances when we've got them. And you can't say it's the tactics, because the tactics of what brought all the chances in the first place. I think I messaged in the chat earlier, Eriksen's ball delivery is for me, one of the reasons why he started the last couple of games, because it's so much better than anybody else from corners and free kicks. We're beating the first man and we're getting headers in and stuff like that. So you can see why he's picked the players he's picked today. Again, I think we're just being a bit downcast today for some reason. I thought it was such a good performance. If we perform like this in the next 10 games, we'll win 8 of them. And that's ultimately what you're going off the probability of it all. Maybe not better than Beck's, but yes, he was good. But yeah, for me, I was happy today with the performance. And if we play like that and we finish 6th this season, it's a step forward. You're not just going to turn it on and suddenly finish 1st and 2nd. And it's unrealistic to think that that's going to happen. Ultimately, we're looking at a season we was looking at last season, which is go deep into a competition and hopefully win one, and then finish in a higher position but playing better football. Because we've still got, I think the average age of the team is something like 25. So we've still got a year or two to develop into a proper team. We just got to be patient. Whether the fans will be patient, it's a different story. I include myself in that. But yeah, we just got to be patient, honestly.
No, I concur with him. No, 100%. I think you can look at the eye test this season. There's not as many groans and there's not as much moaning. Like we can see, I know Liverpool game aside, to cut the Liverpool game because we weren't at that game. But I think quite a lot of the games this season, you can see a style of play. You can see that we're trying to play from the back. You can see we're pressing. Last season, there was nothing. And this season, it's a complete 360. I think 180, beg your pardon, in terms of how we were playing. I got my angles wrong there. It's been a long day, but you see, I think that's the thing. Another day we win this game 2-3-0, and that's the thing. We're and I know people go, yeah, but if my auntie had Will, she'd be a bike sort of argument there. You know what I mean? But like I'm saying, you know what I'm trying to say. Like it's a positive because another day. Next week, if we play the same way we did today, we'll probably beat Spurs. That's what I'm saying. Like this is how my logic's thinking, and I think Rasmus will start next week.
It's the consistency of the performance is what you look at, and more often than not, if you're consistent in your performance, you'll win. I saw a stat today, completely different team, about Newcastle. If they win the game, they go top for the next 24 hours. I have watched 4 of Newcastle's games this season. They have been shit. So rubbish, right? I have no idea how they're anywhere near the top of the table. I don't know how they've won games, and it's because instead of just looking at the scoreline, I've actually watched the game to where they've been woeful, but they've just somehow won, and that's half the problem. You look at Man United's games this season; we probably should have won most of them, and we was just poor against Liverpool for most of it. But ultimately, when you're watching the game, you're thinking, "Oh, this is better. This has been loads better." Like. I'm a little bit more comfortable in the viewing. I don't think there's going to be a massive error, or I know we've had them, but it just don't feel as bad as last season.
You're not wrong. But again, if we were to look at the same results last season against these ones, again, we scored 6 in these games last season. And we have scored thus far 5 in the last 5 games. So we're averaging 1 goal a game.
But I bet if we did a deep dive into the stats, I bet we've got a higher XG and we've created more big chances.
Oh, 100%. I remember last season we were scraping games by having 2 chances in each game. Like we weren't.
We don't win games with XG and big chances, do we?
Oh no, but we're saying
no.
No, we agree with that. But what we're saying is, it's just the fact like there's an idea there. We can see what they're trying to do. There's a domination in terms of the game. Like if you look at every game we've played besides Liverpool, Brighton, we lost that game. We dominated the game for the most part. In my opinion, I felt like we dominated the game, but we didn't deserve to lose that one. But we did, which fair enough. That happens in football. Today, I don't think we deserved. I think we deserved to win. We didn't. You know what I mean? I feel like this early stage of the season, I feel like these draws and losses, we need to turn them into victories. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's going to come along with Rasmus coming into the team and getting some games. And, Xerxes getting more accustomed to the Premier League and, just getting the right front three and getting them a solid run of games, because I think that's what we need right now, consistency in the attacking selections a little bit more.
We've missed 17 big chances in the Premier League in 5 games. And then if you look at how the Barnsley game went.
To just finish the point, you see where I was going with it, which is, God blimey, which is that we're just not scoring. We weren't scoring last year, and we kept on saying, well, Højlund's young. He's not been given that opportunity yet. We shouldn't be relying on a Højlund. We're still relying on a Højlund. We bought a Xerxes, who's not the finished product. We're still relying on him. Rashford's only just started picking up, and then we bench him. And it's that clinical edge. We've been missing it. Even when Rashford started, he wasn't scoring. We're not, at this moment in time, clinical. And that's kind of where I was trying to go with it. You can count your big chances, you can count all those things that go in with it, but we are still impotent at the moment up front. The Barnsley result was just a result of Barnsley being absolutely pants, to be honest with you.
It's an anomaly. It's a League Cup. I'm not going to take a League Cup game against a League One side.
It's League One. But this is it. What is Van Nistelrooy's role at the moment? We've not been clinical. We have Benny McCarthy before him. What is it going to take for us to find that clinical edge? I'm not saying that we've got to go out there and score hundreds, but the fact that we're making these chances is brilliant. What's it going to take for us to take that last little footstep between making the chances and taking the chances? Because ultimately, that's what helps you to win the game. We were doing it under Ollie, and now we're not. What's changed? Why are we not able to put that ball in the back of the net as much as we have been able to?
Crossing's still a big issue for us, and I feel like there's not enough players in the box when we're crossing those balls. And when we're coming through the wings, but we don't. That's not how we want to play anymore. Wish we could play. I laughed at that comment when I first saw it box. That's why I was giggling. But yeah, I feel like crossing's still a big issue. Like we don't seem to, like you said, Dan Eriksson can cross a ball. That's why he plays quite often. He can ping a ball in the box.
For me, it's a really simple one. It sounds stupid, but you've just got to keep doing what you're doing. You would much prefer to see a United team creating 17 big chances, and because eventually it will turn. Even if it's like Fernandes when he kicked the ball against his own face and he went in, something will make it turn, and then suddenly we'll be talking about how we've won 3 games in a row and we scored 3 or 4 goals, and then again, I know Barnsley's a weird one, but we created 10 big chances. We scored 7. So it's just the luck of the draw in a sense. We had all the players firing at the same time. We could have just been one of them saving it for today. Like if Rashford could have saved his couple of goals for today, that would have been much better than him scoring the 2 against Barnsley. But I don't know. As long as we keep doing what we're doing, the laws of probability would say that we would start scoring goals. Because you've just got to keep creating the chances. It is the way it is. It's much better situation that we're in this season with what's happening than last season. It's chalk and cheese for me. We was conceding loads of goals and barely getting any shots, and now we're cutting out the shots on target against us, but we're creating chances where we should be like Bruno Fernandes. 8 times out of 10 would have scored a goal or 2 today, and it's just that sort of unlucky stuff. That will turn eventually.
Well, he would have done against Fulham as well. He had a couple of great chances against Fulham in that first half, and again didn't do it, and ended up coming back and apologising. Fran, I'm really pleased you're with us, friends. I really am. I do feel like I'm disagreeing with you a lot today, which is fine. We're allowed to. You're allowed to come here. It's a safe space. I agree with you entirely on this one, by the way. Ahmad is our best outlet. His feet are incredibly quick. He just wasn't there today. He wasn't quite at the level, again, that he has set himself on that one. But the point I wanted to come to with Franz on this one was this. You're right, Chloe does keep it simple. Brilliant. I'm not quite sure we're having a go at Bruno Fernandes for hitting the ball still on the outside of his foot, because he's doing that because he needs to try and curl it inwards because he's right-footed. He's got 2 options to get it where you want it to go. He either hits it left-footed or with the outside of his boot. Bruno's amazing. He's got, I know you say he's got an obsession with it, but he's capable of doing it. And I think, in the nicest possible way, I think we all need to just step back and realise that Bruno Fernandes has got more talent in his little toe than a lot of us have got in the entirety of our body. Hence why he is playing for Manchester United in the Premier League. So they're going to try these things, and sometimes they come off and sometimes they don't. If he does that and it goes in the top corner, everyone's sitting there and going, Bruno Fernandes, what a player, needed a moment of magic. And it's the outside of his foot that's done it. But he's missed it. So now all of a sudden it's Bruno Fernandes is an idiot. He should hit it with the inside of his foot. If he does that, it's definitely going wide because he's not going to get the angle that he needs to on it. So I get what you're saying. I really do. But honestly, chaps, there's so much more to be positive about, even though we haven't really sort of delved into that as much. But I do need to go into one final little negative, I suppose, in terms of the match. And if I'm honest with you, Dan, this is one which you were vocal about from the start. And I'd like to explain my point of view in the group chat before you jump down my throat, much like Lisandro Martinez did himself. There was a weird moment. It was almost like a FIFA glitch in the middle of the game where for some reason he jumps like a little Mario, as if there's a little box that he needs to hit, and then lands 2-footed as if on a little tortoise or turtle so he could get one of those little shells. Now, you said that should have been a red card. I didn't know what to think, and I still don't. I've now watched it back, I would estimate around about 20 times, and I still can't tell you what he's doing. I can't tell you if he's genuinely trying to go in for a tackle. I can't tell you if he was just jumping up for a giggle. I can't tell you if he wanted to make contact with the ball. I can't tell you if he was angry and he wanted to severely injure the player. It's just like, genuinely, it's as if he's just had a moment and his body's just like had some sort of malfunction, because there was just nothing. Like he's not trying to tackle. He just goes up and then comes back down. And this is why I said I had to watch it back, because you almost wondered, did he try and go in and then pull himself back? But it doesn't look like he does. Equally, you think, is he trying to go in there and then he thinks, like you say, actually, no, this is a bad idea. He doesn't pull back. It's literally just, it's the best way I can describe it is it's like the old penalties that Bruno Fernandes used to take just before he kicks the ball, where he has the little skip and then hits it, but with a little bit more menace. So I'm going to come to you, Dan, but I'm really intrigued in what Tone thought in this, because he's untainted by group chat discussion. What the bloody hell was Lisandro Martinez doing at that point? Because that could have been red. What's your thought?
You know what's mad? I think he's just a bit of a nut job. And I think that's like, I feel like sometimes I don't think he thinks about it. I think you could ask him and he'd go, I don't know. So I'm trying to get in a psyche of a nut job. If he was 1 inch closer, he would have been red carded, and there's nothing we could say to argue it. It would have been a valid red card. Like, he is so lucky to get away with that, because not only for the player, the opposition safety, because if he goes in studs in there, he's doing some like damage there. But yeah, I'm trying to think about it, because I saw it and I thought, the ball just stopped here and he's just trying to do a skill move, you know, like on FIFA Street, where like you put your 2 feet on the ball and you think like, oh, I'm like really good and all that. I was thinking, the game just stopped, so he's just trying to be a bit of a show off. And I thought, no, the game's still going. He's literally going for this guy's ankles here, and his mind's just stopped. I think it was an intimidation tactic. I think he was trying to stop the play without having to foul him, if that makes any sense, like without touching him. And I think in his head, he felt like that was the best way of doing it. But like Dan said, if he got sent off, I think I'd have argued him being sent off purely in the fact that he didn't touch him. But then it's the intent, isn't it?
Well, this is it, and this is where Dan's about to disagree with you. But the other thing I was thinking when he went up was he like, you know, when you're in a wall of a free kick and you jump because you think the ball's about to be kicked away? Part of me was even thinking, has he just done that? Has he just tried to jump, you know, in the hope he was going to block a ball? But no, because this defender doesn't even look like he's swinging a foot of the ball. It's honestly the strangest thing I've ever seen. It's like, again, where you're playing FIFA, you just see a player fall over and there's nobody near him. You're like, what's happened here? Why have you fallen over? Go on, Dan. I know you've been itching to get this out of you. Why was it a red card for you?
It's just madness. This is it for me. I think he was frustrated. He saw red. The issue is intent is irrelevant. So it doesn't matter whether he's tried to injure him, not tried to injure him, whether he's going for the ball, not going. He's double-footed down And if the lad follows through with a kick instead of stopping, it breaks his leg because of the force he's gone in. And that to me is why it has to be a red card, because he's endangered the opponent to the point. If he didn't see it coming and he kicked through, he's getting two footer on the foot, ankle, shin, and that is bad. That could have really, really injured him if he would have kicked through the ball. I just don't know why he did it. It was madness. Like, I understand that he was probably a little bit frustrating. He's quite an edgy player anyway. But if that was against Man United and that was, let's say, Van Dijk doing that at Old Trafford, I would be baying for blood, because you just can't go into tackles that way anymore. Like, I think even back in the day, it's a little bit risky. That's something Roy Keane does, because he's told the ref he's getting booking. It was such a strange moment, because it wasn't a feisty game at all in terms of tackles and stuff. So Martinez is having his own battles in his head with somebody, and he's just took it out on the ball / nearly the lad's foot. But he's genuinely, on a serious note, so lucky that the player didn't follow through with a kick, because it would have been bad.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, but I totally agree with Box here. I thought the ref was actually really quite good. I think he handled it well. He kept things, common sense led the way. He didn't go mad. There was opportunities to give penalties, even that he was just like, no, that's not happening. It was minimal, if anything else. So I think he did really, really well. Handled the game better than I thought. Quanto?
I think the best games refs have is when we're not talking about them at all. He let the game flow when it needed to, brought it back when he needed to. Wasn't yellow card happy, because last week, how many yellow cards was there in the I forgot, it was the Arsenal-Tottenham game, where he was just throwing yellow cards out. Just let the game flow a bit. I understand you have to some things warrant yellow cards. It doesn't matter how many times it happens, you have to give it out. But I felt today that he did a really good job, which is weird, because I never really say that about refs. I usually hate them. So fair play to him.
But that's what I mean. It's what you want at the ultimately, isn't it? You know, those halcyon days where you weren't chatting too much about the referee. And, you know, I remember when referees were, for the most part, lauded because they were doing a reasonably good job. You know, you had the occasional ones like Graham Paul booking a player 3 times just for the giggles and the lulls. But, you know, like, this area is it. I suppose the last question I want to ask you both, boys, is what are you most pleased about? Because, as I said, there was lots of positives about today. Coming out of this game, what are you taking out of this game and into the Europa League opener against Twente? So, Tone, for you, what is the most pleasing aspect of today's game?
Besides the style of play, we didn't really mention this, but Onana, for me, looks a completely different player this season. And I think it says a lot about a good goalkeeper, where he isn't called upon that much, and he wasn't called upon today. But that double save, at moments last season, I think he doesn't go for that double save. I think he lets in the rebound. And this today, he kept his concentration up, and he made an unbelievable save. And that's what that's what I think I'm taking from this game. Touch wood, because Onana could let in a clanger next game, and everyone will be on to me like, it's your fault, Tony. You said it. And I was there like, no, I just. And it seems nice, because he seems like a really nice guy. Whenever you hear him talk, and he seems like a leader in the locker room. And, you know, and I hope he goes on a good run, because we need some solidarity at the back.
To be fair, Tone, that's what usually happens. So there we go. But yeah, absolutely. This JJ. Yeah. Penalty save 1 week, double save today, and everyone was talking about the David Raya double save, and on a stronger wrist, he absolutely does. This year, he's obviously been out training with cans of beans and stuff. But yeah, everyone was talking about the David Raya double. I thought this was better. Like the David Raya one was very, very good, but the Onana one there, I mean, to keep the strong wrist to get the ball in the first place, and then to get the hand up as much as he needed to whilst his momentum was taking him down, absolutely superb.
This chance had more pace on it. I think the rebound from Raya was because of the positioning. So his position from the penalty was a ridiculous save, because he should have had no right to get to that rebound, but the pace kind of allowed him to have that 1% chance of doing it. Whereas today, the fact that he got up from that and the pace on it, you know what I mean? He could have got handed it palms into the back of the net and he palmed it there, you know. So, but, you know, last season, I think that's the sort of chance that goes in. So you got to give praise to Onana for that.
Absolutely. I mean, Eze had another chance a bit later on that they were all like, oh, that was the one. That was their opportunity. It was going wide. But my tweet was, Onana had it covered. And he did. You know, he was down there. I think even if that had been on target, Onana was putting that round the post. Dan, for you, what was the most pleasing aspect of today?
I suppose it's just that we can see what he's trying to do now. And you can't just say about this game. I had a bit of a wobble after the Liverpool game because I didn't agree with some of the stuff that we saw. It was the same gaps, the same this. But you can see that he's got a style that he's trying to implement and he's trying to get across to the players. But I messaged in the group chat. It was nice to see that we had options off the bench that looked good options, and we didn't have a lot of that last season. And that is a positive because we might actually, I know the changes didn't work today, but at least the changes are there to make, or you can change the starting 11 and then you've got the players on the bench. It's quite, I've just realised that Anthony was on the bench and you would have wondered whether he could have come on for 10 minutes to have a crack because he played decent in the game on Wednesday. So yeah, I'm a little bit shocked that he didn't use him, to be honest. But yeah, we've just got a better rotation this season. So if you were disappointed with a player today, maybe you don't think he played the best, Ten Hag's got an option. He's got a choice off the bench. And nobody seems to be sulking at the minute, which is good. There seems to be a better balance across the squad. I'm looking forward to this season now, to be honest. I'm sure I'll flip-flop again come Villa and Spurs. But yeah,
left backs coming back.
No, we'll actually have a left back soon as well.
Yeah,
that was a question I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Like, what did they do?
Luke Shaw. World-class Luke Shaw coming back soon for one game.
Mazraoui's been outstanding this season. So if we actually get a left back, do we drop Dallo? Left back? Do we drop Dallo? Because he's played.
I wouldn't. I think Mazraoui is a better player than Dallo. I do think he's a better footballer, and I think he's a better defender. But I feel like Ten Hag. I feel like Ten Hag loves Dallo. And I feel like he will play him based on his preference, as opposed to who's the better fit. And I think Mazraoui is the better fit at right back. But it's a good headache to have because I'd be struggling with that one. But I'd probably start Mazraoui at right back.
I also saw a photo of Malacia looking like he's on his way back, channeling his inner sixth sense or ghost or the crow. You know, I feel like it's going to be one of those people. We do see him.
The fact that Ahmad put on social media as well, I can confirm he is alive, was just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
They all watch the show. Clearly, they're sitting there having a watch, going, "Yeah, they're worried," because I was genuinely concerned. I won't believe it until I actually see him out there on the pitch. So there we go, guys. I've really enjoyed it tonight. It's been a superb show. 2 games coming up. Obviously, midweek, we will be playing FC Twente in the Europa League. It's our first game under these new rules where we get to play a whole bunch of games, and it's not just all home and away against the same ones. I've got to be honest, actually, it's quite good. I'm stuck in a bit of flux at the moment because there's part of me thinking, yes, this is actually quite a nice idea. There's also part of me that believes this is just their way of getting their European Super League and that they're just trying to lay the foundations for it. They'll still lose and it won't quite work, but it feels like the what's the word that I'm looking for, compromise between the two. And if this is how it's going to be, I quite like it so far. It's not too bad. And then of course we've got Spurs at the weekend, so I'm sure we'll be back at some point midweek where we'll have a nice little chat about FC Twente, Steve McLaren's old team, before getting into the joys of Spurs. I wonder if we able to get Harry Scarf back again, Dan. I know you really enjoyed having him the last time, so we'll see what we can do. Harry, we're looking for you, mate. If you're seeing this, number one, why you're watching Man United show, haven't you got better things to do? But we'd like to see you on. So do join us. Brilliant in the chat. Superb. Lovely to have so many of you here with us this evening. Tone, thanks for joining us again, mate. Lovely to have you back.
Pleasure.
And Dan, just thanks for turning up, mate. If you'd like to hold on behind, we'll have our little disciplinary chat as we.
I've already had too many of them this week.
Wow, you're getting on now. Can't turn up 10 minutes late and expect to not have it. Super duper. Cheers, everybody. Take care. It might have been 0-0, but it wasn't all for nothing. It's been a superb performance. See you next time.